Hi, I'm Jeremy. Poof levels are still high today, and these are extraordinary times. Also, it is super warm in my house right now, so, no hat today. Wink. And we move on to the news, where I am going to talk about yesterday's story, that one, about Facebook, how teenagers and young and younger than teenagers are using the site more and more. Apparently, it is actually beginning to be marketed to the younger than socially necessary to be on a social network crowd, because apparently these ad people are like, hey, if we can advertise to them while they're young and get them while they're young and malleable, then we can create customer loyalty for life and blah, blah, blah. And it sickens me just a little bit. And now we move on, of course, to space science news, where actually I found a repeated story of a story that viewer Samantha sent us the other day also, but I wasn't quite up on why she sent it to me. Now I understand a little more about it. It is the transit of Venus. For those of you who are uneducated, like I was, the transit of Venus is a very, 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 very rare occurrence for us here on Earth, because Venus normally kind of evades the sun because of where we are in relation to Venus, as it is circling it, and because of that, very, very few times in all of time we get to watch it go across the sun. And today is one of those days, starting at 6 p.m. Eastern, which is already happening for most of us. So I'm a little late on this one. Sorry. Speaking of space, a beautiful machine by the name of X-37B, designed by Boeing, has been up in space for about 400 or so days and is very, very soon going to be coming back to Earth. What has this beautiful machine been doing? Well, nobody really knows. It was put up by the United States Air Force, 400 or so days ago, and well, we don't exactly completely understand why, what it's been doing up in low orbit / slightly higher orbit. It has been going around the Earth at 17,000 miles per hour, and was actually due to touch down in California's Vandenberg Air Force Base, if I could speak today, back in December. It was going to come down, but then they decided, well, it's up there, we can keep doing stuff to it, so let's keep doing stuff to it. It's really, really highly classified as to what it's doing and why it's doing, but it's doing. So it'll be here mid to late June, and we'll find out probably less about it when it gets back. Coming back down to Earth, well, Bill Clinton, how down to Earth is he? Anyways, he has been going around on the campaign trail with Obama, but also at the same time been talking up President hopeful Romney, apparently praising his business record and praising the fact that he is actually wasn't a bad governor, and he's good for America. And at a fundraiser on Saturday, one of those days, he talked himself up like, take it from me, I'm the only president that came up to you with 8 years, and with 4 of those years I gave you a budget surplus. In his very Bill Clinton-y way. He doesn't do this, he does this. Yeah. And on to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, where a mom was at her daughter's graduation, and apparently at the beginning of the graduation ceremonies they announced anyone cheering or screaming for the graduates will be escorted from the building. Apparently they meant absolutely no exceptions whatsoever, because when she started cheering for her daughter, they swooped down, scooped her up, handcuffed her, and was like, you get to go away now. Apparently they detained her. They didn't escort her from the facility. They detained her on $225 bail. Yeah. Really, South Carolina? Come on. My parents, not only my parents, my whole family was there. If my parents and my family had been, detained for cheering at my graduation, P.S., they would have been able to fight them off because I come from a huge family. Love you guys. Moving on to Washington State, where I do have some family, ironically. The Forest Service, which is overseen by the Agriculture Department, has been blasted recently because, well, they've been running into a lot of people who are of Hispanic descent who they can't communicate with effectively because those of Hispanic descent that they are finding do not communicate in English very well. And the Forest Service is not accustomed to having to communicate in Espanol very well. So, of course, they call somebody very fluent in Espanol the Border Patrol. And apparently, because they've been calling the Border Patrol, it has become a rampant problem of civil liberties. And so they are having to put a stop to it and are having an internal investigation of the Forest Service for racism, because apparently calling the Border Patrol on them is wrong. Really? Really? I'm sorry. Like, this, for me, is absurd. It's the same argument as those who won't learn English in elementary school and instead get put into, Spanish language school, because, it's all the same. They learned in Spanish, so teach them in Spanish. Or you can say, hey, you're in America, not to sound like an ignorant Southerner here, but you're in America, you need to learn American, which actually is English, for those of you who don't know. And if you want to say America has no official national language, while that may be true on the books, guess what they talk in Congress? And guess what they talk in the White House? Guess what they talk in the judiciary? The only people that cater to other languages throughout history are occupied countries. So, if I may be so bold, I would say that we are acting like we are being taken over by those of the Espanol persuasion. And actually, it's kind of embarrassing that we have voting certificates in like 100 languages or so, instead of just being like, hey, you're in America, if you can't vote in English, you can't vote at all. Apparently that's discriminatory. But I want to end on a happy note. Well, a strange happy note, because in Manalapan, New Jersey, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right, they earn enough money there apparently that I don't need to learn how to pronounce it right, because I will never own $1 million home in Manalapan. But they've been having this strange problem of people's cars being stolen from their houses and then being returned later. Apparently, the guy hits the same houses over and over. He takes them in broad daylight and returns them in broad daylight and disappears. For those of you who have ever watched Burn Notice, this will strike you a little bit on the funny bone side. Strikes me on the funny bone side. So apparently, one of the guys who had his Chrysler 300 stolen confronted the man when he brought it back. It was like, "You've been doing me wrong, man." And the guy escaped because he's an escape artist, apparently, as well as a car thief. But moving on, hopefully those in New Jersey who are trying to catch this thief, catch him and just get to ask him why. Why is he doing it? As with all things, we should always ask, why are they doing it? Wink. Anyways, thank you so much for watching The Extraordinary Times. I am still Jeremy. This over here is probably a like button, I hope. You should be watching this on YouTube. Like it over here. Favorite it somewhere around this area. And then click subscribe up there, because I would like it very much if we could get out to more people. That is, among all of our jobs, also your job. Thank you so much. Please keep watching. And today's question is, what kind of car would you steal for a day if you could, steal it and then bring it back? Because bringing it back is very important in one piece. So, no Ferris Bueller's Day Off on this one, okay? Moving on. Actually, technically, moving on. If you watch the movie, you'll know I'm wrong. But I'm Jeremy. These are extraordinary times. Be aware. Why is there an ad on my screen? I hate ads so much they hurt me. Ah, death. Restarting.